I am Anthony Ewing from Chicago, Illinois. I've been through the Rolando School of Wine Tasting at many a business dinners, and I'm a new member of the Watch Fam. Super excited tonight to make my first watch purchase and see where it goes from there. Boom, Watch Fam. You know, it's interesting, in the last couple years, I have really been wanting to connect to my past in new ways. And I think that's for a few reasons. First and foremost, our family has grown, and we've also lost a couple really important members of our family in our grandparents, who were really the bedrock of the family, the storytellers of the family. And secondly, I feel like, I'm at an inflection point in my life. I'm, 18 months from turning 40. Because of that, that means more responsibility for me. That means more opportunity. And it means more chances for me to, solidify who I am. And who I am is my past. And so I've really wanted to make that connection. I do that really in two ways. One, by continuing the stories. Continuing the fun anecdotes or even just the small slices of what makes our family great and who I am through our family. The second thing too is I maintain tradition. And tradition can come in many different formats, if you will. My grandfather, for example, was into watches. I didn't even know he was. At the time, when he passed and our family was trying to decide what to pass on and what to keep or what to get rid of. The watch wasn't important to us. We didn't know that he was into watches. And it sure wasn't important to me because I didn't know the sentimental value of it, nor did I know about watches. Since then, I've learned a little bit about him and the fact that he wore that watch every day. And we've told a couple stories about, how he would navigate, his career, and some of the long lunches that he would have and some of the discussions that he would have to generate new business. And knowing that he wore that watch, knowing that he had a timepiece with him throughout all of those endeavors in growing a career and supporting a family, now means something more to me because I'm a little bit closer to that in my life. And so, purchasing a watch or even looking into a watch, even if it's not my grandfather's, has a whole new meaning for me. It allows me to commemorate, him as a lasting influence in my life. It allows me to really put a flag in this point in my life, this inflection point in my life. And hopefully in the future, it allows me to hand this down along with the stories that come with it to, generations to come. And that's really the ultimate vision behind procuring a timepiece, allowing me to continue to tell stories, allowing me to continue to commemorate, these life events and continue to, hold my grandfather's spirit alive. My grandfather was an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. Every discussion that he had, whether it was with family or co-workers, had some sort of opportunity or possibility to it. You could see it in his eyes when you talked to him. And we used to have the most incredible conversations with him around, his kitchen table about our dreams and where we wanted to go. And we always like to say he kept those dreams and he reminded us of those dreams every day. I've always had a dream of starting something of my own and creating a platform for myself and others to create. And I've had the opportunity to do that. 3 years ago, I started a company by the name of Thoughtium. It truly now is a platform that allows us to create space for our clients to think differently about the way they do business. And it's become now an avenue for, other practitioners to come in and do their best work. If I could have the conversation with my grandfather at the kitchen table and tell him about this opportunity, this dream of mine that is now a reality, he would be incredibly proud. He would be continuing to push me to think about, new opportunities and ways to continue to improve and to grow. But more importantly, he would be supportive no matter what. And that's something that is more important to me and is etched in my memory, and, 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 really never let go of it. My history with watches is a very shallow one. I am wearing an Apple Watch. It's really an extension of my phone, which is really why I wear it in the first place. I grew up wearing a rubber Casio watch. I played the straight and narrow in college with your classic, Fossil 79.99 watch. And ironically, I never let go of that. In fact, as early as last week, I was wearing a close to 15-year-old Fossil oversized watch that barely worked with a torn leather strap. And this doesn't mean I don't believe in watches as a reflection of who you are. It's only now that I'm starting to realize that watches truly can be a reflection of where you're going. And for that, I'm super excited about getting into not just this watch purchase, but what it will mean for me and hopefully who I'll hand it down to.
Anthony's a great guy. He's an attentive mentor and friend. He's a persistent entrepreneur, and he's daring. But what interests me most about him and about watching him work and about having dialogue with him is his ability, or rather the frequency at which he takes a more profound point of view. But when he called me and tasked me with finding a watch for him and explained to me the importance of this moment, and how it certainly was not just a material purchase, right? It wasn't just, hey, I've got a couple $1,000s to spend, let me know. It was a really big deal.
So the watch buying process for me is maybe a little bit more unconventional than most. But that's 100% what I was expecting in dealing with Christian and the Theo and Harris team. We had a great conversation a couple months back about this point in my life and how excited I was to commemorate it with a watch, and I knew he was the guy to go to. So we had some discussions, and I really had one major requirement, and that was that we trust the relationship that we have to get together at a certain point, which just so happens to be tonight. Of course, as part Italians, we will break bread and have a meal. And I'm going to see a couple watches completely blind. These watches are going to be curated by Christian and his team based on what he knows about me and a lot of the stories and conversations that we've had. And over a couple glasses of wine, we're going to make a selection. It's the only way someone like myself with very little depth of knowledge about watches, but yet coveting the historical context and the kind of sentimental value of a purchase like this would ever buy a watch. It's on complete feel. The feeling that I'm essentially looking for is one of sophistication, forward thinking, if you will, but also complete approachability and universality. I mean, this is the one watch that I'll have that I'll be able to wear with both a suit and a pair of slacks. And so for me, it's what stands out. It's the feeling that it emotes. That's the most important over any technical spec.
With Anthony, because he didn't really have parameters, like physical parameters, it was more of it's been more of an abstract process that requires me to feel out his taste, right? Because this purchase has to be a marriage of all this meaning and his taste, right? But because I don't really know his taste or his watch taste, because he doesn't know it yet, it's uncharted territory. But that for me is a blast. So I've curated a collection from modern watches with vintage aesthetic, right? In the case that he likes the idea of a vintage watch, but definitely is just not from a size perspective, a vintage watch guy, all the way to 36 millimeter chronographs and 34 millimeter Omegas. It means a lot to me that I'm able to play a part, any part, in such an important moment, right? That is probably my favorite part about this job. The company is a part of many people's beautiful stories, right? And as Anthony's friend, I'm very lucky to be able to be a part of this one. I've met thousands of people that I've tried to get into vintage watches, that I've tried to get into the small aged nuances of the 1940s and 50s. And many people love it, but really the majority don't. The majority, think that those are, either old men's watches or kind of like women's watches. They don't feel comfortable wearing them. And I am blown away and happy that this 6 foot, whatever, 8-inch wrist guy chose the epitome of mid 20th century Omega. Conservative, detailed, certainly on the side of formal. With the right straps, he'll have versatility. He'll be able to wear the watch up and down, but even on a cheap piece of leather, which he originally saw it on, he loved it. And seeing his eyes, keep going back to this piece was so rewarding. I'm delightfully surprised. Because that is an example of really evangelizing, right? Like in a watch sense, really showing someone something they never thought they would have loved, but absolutely fell madly in love with. Yeah. Introduced Thoughtium. How old were you when you started?
What's the connection there? Oh, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Sorry, I just had to challenge that for a second. Leave Thoughtium out of this.
Stupid company.
At their kitchen table in their small house. I'm going to start over again. Because they didn't have a small house. My family's going to hear that and they're like, they didn't have a small house. Got it. I had to challenge it again.
Looks like the Moser Icons watch.
Look at
exactly
that.
Right.
It is. Boom. There it is.
I know.
Sorry.
Some of you guys out there like it. That's no